So in this video I wanted to demonstrate removing a very badly stuck stem in the steerer of this bike. It's an old Schwinn Paramount in pretty bad shape. Apparently it's been sitting out in the elements, and the steel stem is rusted pretty badly into the fork steerer tube. And to make matters worse, it looks like there's actually some shim material that somebody put in here to take up the difference of the little gap between the steerer and the stem. I think the reason for that may have been that they used a bolt that was entirely too long, so it never snugged up against the bottom of the stem, and they actually added a second wedge to this thing. It was a mess. The whole thing was a dog's breakfast. So I'm going to apply some extreme violence to this by way of an air hammer, which is this guy, against the bottom of the stem like that. I would like to be able to drive it in against the bottom of the stem through here, but I really don't have the right air chisel for that. So this would wander off and do damage to the steerer from the inside if I were to do it from the bottom. So I don't care about the stem. It's an old steel piece of junk. I'm going to go ahead and just blast it out that way if it'll move. This has been soaking in a series of blasts of P-Blaster penetrant, and hopefully that stuff will have done its work by now, and we'll see if it'll move. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in my lap just to keep from damaging what's left of the paint anymore, and have at it. This thing's got about 100 psi, which is the max that it'll run at. Let's see what happens. Alright, I've basically wedged it into the stem pretty good, but it looks like it's moving. Let's see if I can go a little further. Now it's all the way through, and I gotta fix that. So I've made some progress. Looks like it's moving. I've had to switch to my my chisel tip because the pointed one was just digging into the stem and causing all kinds of chaos. I should again point out that this is totally destructive technique. It's going to ruin everything. The stem's going to be wrecked. Very likely the bearing races in here are going to be wrecked if the bearings don't get crushed themselves. So it makes a mess, but when this thing is stuck as badly as this, there's not a whole lot else that's going to work apart from using fire with a torch. So let's see if we can zip this thing out. I think we're close. Done. All right. So this thing sees daylight for the first time in God knows how many years. And it looks like I've got to clean up a big mess inside here. There's definitely some loose material in there. I think somebody shimmed that stem in place, which is a dumb thing to do. But this thing may be rideable again someday. A little bit of luck. So this is the post-mortem on the stem removal from this old Schwinn Paramount. Turns out there was a shim in there, and that coupled with all the crud and corrosion from decades of sitting out in the rain, that's why it was so hard to get that stem out, and I had to resort to the air chisel. Despite that, the crown race is in really good shape. I don't see any dents. Same is true of the upper cup, and the cup and race that are still on the frame really look good. Bearings are intact, and most of those parts will still be able to be used again, I think. This old Campagnolo stuff is built to last. The same cannot be said for the lock nut. That thing's just rotten and falling apart. I don't know how things get that bad, but just seemed to be focused on that piece. There wasn't rust that bad anywhere else. So this approach with the air chisel is really kind of a last resort. I've used it on seat posts and stems. Well, this is actually the first time I've used it on a stem. It's very destructive. Like the part that you're trying to drive out is going to be wrecked when we're all done. As you can see from the big chew marks there and the hole that I blew in the top of this. But it's probably less destructive than some other approaches that I've heard about. Some people talk about using caustic chemicals like lye to dissolve an aluminum stem or seat post, or a propane torch or a acetylene torch to use thermal expansion to get everything apart. That's also a great approach when it works, but it's probably even more destructive, maybe a little bit more dangerous than this one. It works for me. Give it a shot. Thanks for watching.